We see the human soul within a painting, sometimes light, sometimes solitude, and sometimes the trace of eternity. Across the centuries, countless artists have left their age and their spirit upon a single canvas. Now, we begin a journey back through time to follow their stories. The first story, the genius who dreamed of perfection, Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci, the genius of the Renaissance, is often remembered as a painter with the hands of a god, a visionary inventor, an astronomer, and an anatomist. Yet, when we look closer at his life, we meet a surprisingly human Leonardo, full of curiosity, contradictions, and deeply personal struggles. He pursued perfection throughout his life, but that very pursuit often tormented him. It is well known that he spent 16 years working on the Mona Lisa. Until the very end, he adjusted the colors, the gaze, and the subtle angles of her smile. Rather than declaring a work complete, he often left it with a sense of, "It's not finished yet." For Leonardo, art was not about results. It was an endless exploration. He wanted to know everything about the world. Why the sky is blue, how a bird's wings move, why waves break in a particular way. His notebooks are filled with thousands of questions, many of which remain unanswered. He believed that knowledge is born from curiosity. That insatiable curiosity fueled his genius, but also brought him loneliness. Leonardo never received a formal school education. Born out of wedlock, he grew up on the margins of society, always aware of the walls that separated him from others. Yet this outsider perspective stayed with him throughout his life, allowing him to see what others overlooked and to question what others accepted. His perfectionism sometimes led him to isolation. While other Florentine artists enjoyed success and recognition, Leonardo immersed himself in solitary study and obsessively refined individual works. Calling himself always a student, he remained on the periphery of society rather than at its center. Yet, in his solitude, he observed the world more deeply than anyone else. The human smile, the movement of a bird's wings, the play of light. He saw the order of life in everything. For him, art was not simply an expression of beauty, but an attempt to understand existence itself. Though he produced countless works, his truest creation was himself, a human who explored the world with endless curiosity and honed himself through a relentless pursuit of perfection. His life shows that creativity is not about finding answers, but about never stopping the questions. Art historians often describe Leonardo as the embodiment of perfectionism, a man who chose exploration over completion. Many of his works were never fully finished because he always sought better light, more natural movement. In Mona Lisa and The Last Supper, traces of endless experimentation and even failure remain. He was also both an artist and a scientist, recording human anatomy, plant growth, the flow of water, and the refraction of light in his drawings. Kenneth Clark, a notable art historian, called him the first modern man who sought to understand everything in existence. Leonardo left designs for helicopters, diving suits, tanks, and even early robots, demonstrating that he thought a century ahead of the scientific revolution. His paintings are not only beautiful, but also visual records of nature's order. The Mona Lisa's smile, for instance, is more than a portrait. It is the result of scientific observation of tiny facial muscle movements, capturing human emotion with unprecedented precision. Many mysteries surround Leonardo's life and work. One of the most famous is the identity of the Mona Lisa. Some scholars suggest that the portrait might be a self-portrait, noting similarities in facial proportions and bone structure. Others argue that while she may indeed be Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a Florentine merchant, the image could also represent an idealized woman or even symbolize dual gender traits. Leonardo was known for writing his notebooks in mirror script, which led later generations to believe he left secret codes. In reality, this was a practical habit to prevent smudging as a left-handed writer, according to most scholars. Debates also continue about the Last Supper, where some claim that the figure of John may actually represent a woman, possibly Mary Magdalene. While popularized by the Da Vinci Code, most art historians consider this theory more fiction than fact. Leonardo's sexual orientation has also been discussed. He never married, maintained close relationships with his male pupils, and was once accused of immoral acts as a young man, charges that were quickly dismissed. Some historians cautiously suggest he may have had homosexual tendencies, but most interpret his relationships as part of his artistic and academic study of the human body and beauty. Even after his death, mysteries persisted. Leonardo died in Amboise, France, but his tomb was destroyed in religious conflicts, leaving the exact location of his remains unknown. Some researchers claim parts of his skull remain, but there is no scientific proof. His notebooks often contain the phrase, "Saper vedere." He who knows how to see is wise. For Leonardo, art was not just painting. It was an endless journey to understand the laws of nature. He did not fear failure, never rushed completion, and left his life as an unfinished laboratory. His work, his curiosity, and his relentless questions reveal a Leonardo who was human, endlessly curious, perfection-driven, and deeply in love with the world around him. Shall we take a look at some of his works? Created this work in his early 20s. It depicts the angel Gabriel announcing the birth of Jesus to the Virgin Mary. Even at this young age, he was experimenting with light, space, and perspective. The detailed depiction of the natural landscape and plants in the background demonstrates that this was not just a religious painting, but also the result of careful observation of nature. While influenced by his master Verrocchio, Leonardo's obsession with detail and precision was already uniquely his own. This is Vitruvian Man. This drawing is not merely an artwork but a study of human proportion and mathematical harmony. Inspired by the writings of Roman architect Vitruvius, Leonardo calculated the perfect proportions of the human body within a circle and a square. Remarkably, this work was a scientific experiment and measurement exercise, not just an artistic sketch. He repeated versions of the drawing and conducted anatomical studies to understand muscles and joints in detail. The Last Supper, painted on the wall of the dining hall at Santa Maria delle Grazie in Milan, Leonardo used a combination of tempera and drywall techniques instead of the traditional fresco method. This choice caused the painting to deteriorate quickly, but it allowed him to manipulate light and perspective so that all attention focused on Jesus. He also captured the diverse emotions of each disciple with incredible realism. One famous moment is Jesus reaching out to indicate the betrayer, with each apostle reacting with shock, doubt, or sorrow, making the scene vividly alive. The Mona Lisa was painted between 1503 and 1506, though some scholars believe Leonardo continued making subtle modifications to it as late as 1517. Perhaps the most famous portrait, it was never truly finished in Leonardo's lifetime. He employed subtle expressions and the sfumato technique to render a delicate and lifelike face. The landscape in the background reflects his studies of topography and anatomy. Some scholars have suggested that the proportions of the Mona Lisa's face resemble Leonardo himself, hinting at the possibility of a hidden self-portrait. He continually revisited the painting, adjusting tones and expressions over time. The self-portrait is believed to have been created around 1512 to 1515. Believed to have been drawn in Leonardo's later years, this self-portrait reveals his deep introspection and solitude. Executed in red chalk or black and white mediums, the delicate rendering of wrinkles and facial expression reflects his age, experience, and inner depth. The portrait is not just an artwork, but a significant record of the human side of a Renaissance genius.